that I know can change over time.
So just to be clear, you agree with all three of the conditions that the city has placed?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for this applicant?
I guess my only question is why wouldn't we want to have screening of the parking along that edge? I know there's a 10-foot clearance, visual clearance area, but if you're coming into the lot, I don't know why you need that clearance. It's one way.
It is one way. At one point we had it two-way, and then we've since changed it and enabled the parking. Done a few versions of this. I think it's just so that we could get the bike racks as close, close to the property line on the west, so that I could fit in quite a few, as many bike racks as I could, and as many parking places as I could, and a dumpster. That's really my reason why. I think.
It
Also,
seems
too,
like we could do some screening there.
I've driven in there so many times now, but I guess I get concerned sometimes with screening that, the person backing out doesn't see you. The ones, especially the two that are closest to Parsons Avenue, they don't see somebody if there's just screening. But it hasn't changed. I mean, this is the existing condition. That was my reasoning. Basically, the people backing out might get hit by somebody pulling in.
Traffic, what do you say? What's your feeling?
I mean, some instances on one-way circulation, we don't require the clear vision triangles for that reason. If there's I guess if you want to make an argument for not having it, then I support it. I guess I feel the argument. I mean, I'm going to reside with code until there's a reason why not. But if it makes it better, I support beautifying it for that reason. I'm only speaking on traffic, so I'm not an architect.
All right, I hear you. I mean, I would like the idea of screening there. I don't know what the other people in the on the board feel. I think it's the improvement.
So again, to Mrs. Cabral, what's the issue with the screening? So you're saying that you can't put the bicycle racks anywhere else? They have to go right there where the screening would go?
Well, it's just that there's not a lot of room to. We wanted a lot more parking bicycle racks than normal. There's only one for every 20 spaces. So we ended up putting in enough 6 racks, the actual 6 racks. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know, something happened on my screen. Anyhow, that was really the reason why. If we can put, it may not be a perfect. We could put some in that it might be a partial, like 3/4, just so that we have enough visual that people can pull in and see if somebody's walking out or walking in, that type of thing.
Yeah, I don't think the screening is meant to block vision, but I think it is, Mr. Maleka's right, that it is helpful to beautify the streetscape,
Sure.
and to, reduce headlights and things for people that are residents, etc.
We'd be glad to do it
Okay.
if that's a condition.
It eliminates one of the variances.
Okay.
Okay.
So are you comfortable then, Mrs. Cabral, eliminating that as a variance? That would be 3372-607.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 607A.
Yeah.
607A.
You're correct.
607A.
Yes.
Sure.
I guess we just want to make sure that those can work together, because if you eliminate that variance, you don't want her to have to come back and get the clear vision there. Even though it's somewhat technical in nature, just I guess reviewing it off the cuff, we don't really know.
Well, isn't the clear vision as you exit, technically as you exit, as opposed to entering?
I mean, we've notoriously agreed with that, but it's not written like that in code. It's not written based on directionality.
Okay.
It's written based on site access.
Okay.
Now you're confusing us.
Right.
I was saying that we would support if you were designing it, but if she would still need a variance for that. It's a few cases that even come to the board now that we've said that was our argument, was that it was going one way. But if it's not on the list of variances today, we kind of want to not reinvent the wheel.
Well, we could do a decorative fence, like a wrought iron fence, perhaps. I know it wouldn't screen 100%, but it sure be prettier than just having nothing at all. And in time, a little ivy could grow up there, you know, on part of it or something like that. If that would be acceptable, kind of. I guess maybe after what you said, Brandon, maybe we need to keep it in there, you know, so we don't have to delay this any longer.
I mean, yeah, without seeing how it's going to be done, unless the board can come up with a solution here today, I don't know how you can not screen and not get a variance for clear vision triangles, which we would support, but that would be an additional variance. That wouldn't be, it's not something that we just support here at staff. We provide our support on the variance.
We have a little bit of a buffer with the bike racks. Granted, you can see through the bike racks, but at least if they're being used, there's bikes and it looks more urban. I don't know if I have a good argument one way or the other. I'd like to not delay it any longer because we've been at this for quite a few months now. It's possible to get an okay leaving that variance in to not provide parking lot screening.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you because I don't want to cause the applicant to have to be delayed, Mr. Maleka.
I'm agreement.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience that wishes to speak about this application? Please unmute yourself. Okay. Hearing none. Are you ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yeah.
Mr. Demora,
No.
and Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes. Variances are granted with the conditions. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm
Madam
sorry.
Chair?
Yes.
Dave Rice seems to be having some problems with his computer, so we're going to try to do Clarendon, but if he's unable to chime in, we may have to skip this until he gets his technical difficulties worked out.
So you may call it or not?
Yeah, go ahead and call it, and then if we can't hear from him, we'll go on to the next one.
Okay, 45 Clarendon Avenue, Mr. Rice, are you able to speak? Okay, I don't hear him.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, there he is. I think we're good.
Okay, is the applicant for 45 Clarendon on the line? Please unmute yourself.
Yes, I am. For me?
Perfect. I can hear you. Can you raise your right hand? Promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, will you state your name for the record as well?
Akti Bania with Baby Co Design.
Okie dokie. Go ahead, Mr. Rice.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, having terrible technical difficulties here right now. This is a BZA case 20-014, 45 Clarendon Avenue, located on the west side of Clarendon Avenue, approximately 112 feet south of West Capitol Street. It is in an area that's served by the Greater Hilltop Area Commission, and the Commission recommends approval of this request. The proposal is to construct an early childhood learning center that will be situated on the parcel as you see in the pictures and the aerial view there. And it requires several different variances. The variances would be to reduce the required building line from 21 feet to 2.5 inches 21 feet, 2.5 inches to 0 feet, to reduce the maximum side yards required from 20% of the width of the lot, or from 20% of the width of the lot. That would be 38.28 square feet to 14% of the width of the lot is 26.79 square feet. They're asking for a rear yard reduction from 25% of the lot area to 14%, side yard obstruction to allow the obstruction of a second floor activity room extending over the main entrance at approximately 11 feet above grade. To increase the allowable lot coverage of the building from 50% of the lot area to 58%, reduce the required parking from 35 spaces to 5, and to not provide parking lot screening. The planning staff has determined that the proposal is consistent with the Columbus citywide planning policies and design guidelines. The Division of Traffic Management has asked for a condition that would establish a loading zone on Clarendon Avenue for pickup and drop-off operations. And the Division of Parking Services has approved the parking and study associated with the application and recommends approval of the requested variance. City staff is recommending approval of the center, and this is development as part of the mayor's neighborhood improvement program. So having said that, we recommend approval of this request.
Okay.
With the condition.
With the condition, okay. Mrs. Banya, do you agree with the condition?
Yes, we're in agreement with the condition.
Okay, do you have anything else to add about the application?
No, I'm happy to answer any questions. I think all of those variances were listed precisely, so I don't have anything to add. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'll start with the question about the parking. How is it that you can run a daycare with 5 spaces?
So that has been something that we are working through. So we do, just to speak a little bit to the project, we do have a facility that's about 50,000 square feet. And in keeping with the neighborhood height, we are a 2-story building. And that kind of led to a majority of the variances that you're seeing today. Predominantly the parking space. The city is looking at potentially having some agreements with neighboring parcels, but we do not have anything at this time. And we do want to have the ability to move forward with the project with the 5 spaces provided. We will have these 5, and then we will have the loading zone that was indicated, which will have the ability for parents to drop off. As far as parents dropping and picking up, the way the center is run, because it's not a school, but more of a childcare pre-K facility. The drop off and pickup is spread out over a couple of hours in the morning, and then also a couple of hours in the evening. So we are comfortable with the parents having the ability to park, go in and leave. Your parents are typically there for between 5 and 10 minutes. A majority of the people that are going to come to this facility is going to be within walking distance. So there will be a large number that will actually walk to the facility with their kids and pick them up as well. The concern, I would imagine, is for the staff that will be in the building, the teachers and administrative staff. So that is what I believe, had to do the parking study for the neighborhood, because there is parking on Clarendon that's available. And I know we're not allowed to count it, but there is availability for parking on Clarendon, and that's somewhat what we're going to rely on till we're able to secure something else. But
So
that
tell
is
me,
our
tell
plan.
me how many children that the facility will hold?
So it is designed with 12 classrooms, and each classroom at maximum will have 20 kids. So about 240 kids will be in the facility. Um, and then yeah, that would be the number of kids.
I'm struggling with the 5 spaces, but I'll let somebody else speak.
I'm struggling with you, Madam Chair.
Bhakti, I mean, you're talking about adding spaces somewhere, negotiating something with the city. I mean, what is that? I mean, is that something you can talk towards that make us feel more comfortable? Because this is for 200 plus kids and staff, this seems really extreme.
So when you're talking about 240 kids, there's going to be about 25 to 30 staff, maybe with administrative, probably close to 30 to 35. So that is a number that would, obviously be consistent in the building. Staff does work in shifts occasionally, because this will be a long day kind of a daycare. So they might start at 6 in the morning and go to 7 or 8 in the evening, potentially for shift work parents. So the staff may be in shifts, but a bunch of them will be there at the same time. We have looked at, like I said, we were originally looking at a different site, and unfortunately, the city was not able to acquire it. So we are where we are. Um, the number of kids was driven really by the need for the neighborhood, which is why we have, the 240 kids. So that was something that was a really strong need, and the city really wanted to address that need. We knew, even as we were designing the building, not wanting to go to a 3-story and be, incongruent with the neighborhood, that we would be taking up more of the site, and we would end up, with less parking. There are locations in the vicinity that have existing parking lots or available land that we're hoping. But like I said, those agreements or discussions haven't been yet, and that isn't with the finance and management department either that we're working with. So we are trying to at least move the project forward with what we have, and with the hopes that for a long-term solution, there will be some agreements made with adjacent property owners that could accommodate the staff parking. I think with the parent parking, even though you think there's 240 kids, I've been in, dropped my kids off to facilities with similar number, and they were, 8, 10 spots, and it was not really ever an issue, because you're in and out of there in a couple of minutes. So we're comfortable with the parent, and considering that a lot of parents will also be walking in, it is the staff that we are thinking long term would need some agreement with the neighboring. We just don't want to hold up the project because of that, and we don't know how long that negotiation might take, or when those discussions will be had. So we're moving forward. That's why we're moving forward with, asking for this variance.
So, Madam Chair had deferred to some of the rest of us, and there's no appetite from any of my colleagues that I can see that will support this moving forward in hopes that you can create parking alternatives. So you may want to consider separating the variance request, because if we vote for them in their entirety, you're likely to get a no. If you elect to separate them, there's a better chance that you might get something approved. But based on the parking variance alone, I think that that's going to be a non-starter. Just food for thought for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you go that route, I would just suggest that you remove both of the variances that relate to parking, which is the spaces and the parking lot screening. I just,
Well, Madam Chair,
yeah,
can I interrupt really quickly?
sure.
I hate to step on Dave's report here, but I was just looking through the report, and maybe Brandon can address this, but the Division of Traffic Management comment is that the Division of Parking Services has approved the parking study associated with this application and recommends approval of the requested variance to reduce the minimum number of required parking spaces. So that tells me that the applicant has performed a parking study that has satisfied the Division of Traffic Management. And they are the experts on parking in the area. So I know that the board has a strong history of denying parking variances, but when the Division of Parking Services has asked an applicant to perform a parking study that they're okay with, that might weigh a little heavier than a past pretense. That's all I have.
Jamie, I certainly appreciate that. And I would say that in the past, what I've seen from parking studies is that they look at available on-street parking that's nearby, and nobody's likely going to park a block away to walk their child inside a facility. And that's historically, now, if we can look at a parking study that makes it make sense for us, I'm sure we'll consider it. But looking at available off-site, on-street parking, like I've seen the Division of Planning or Traffic look at before, doesn't kind of cut the mustard in this case. So I certainly appreciate you pointing that out, but we've kind of disagreed with that in the past because it's just, we're practical and we know how we go through life, and the notion of somebody that's late for work parking 2 blocks away to drop their kid off just seems so far-fetched to me.
Hey, Michael, the parking study is basically adjacent Clarendon Avenue. That's what we are calling the designation for the pickup and drop off. So they kind of are going hand in hand. Clarendon is basically their immediate site frontage. So they will have reserved parking in front of their site for those late parents or any parents picking up and dropping off. And I guess know if you go on street view in this area, but the parking occupancy is pretty low. Clarendon Avenue, pretty much anytime you can go street view and look at the whole west side of the street is unparked. That's pretty much where this development's going to be, just to provide transparency for the study, which was also attached. So there was a lot of available parking in every adjacent public street.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could add, it was my impression that the parking was generally for the teachers. So I can see a teacher parking on one of the side streets, but the pickup and drop off should be pretty immediate, as Bhakti alluded to earlier. And whether you're late or not, you're just going to slip into the loading zone, drop your kid off or pick it up, and then take off. So I don't think the number of kids has any impact on the parking. It may mainly be for the teachers, who, if they're working in the school, should be brave enough to park on any of these side streets anyway.
Have you ever been to a daycare at 6 o'clock when it's pickup time?
I don't have any kids.
Not yet.
Just to address, thanks, Jamie, for bringing that up. But yeah, I was going to point you to the parking study, and that is exactly right. We are not expecting parents to park far away, because we do have the 5 spaces as well as the loading zone where parents will drop off and pick up. And it is mostly the teachers that we would anticipate, the staff that is working there that would park further away. They would, be comfortable with the neighborhood enough to walk down Clarendon, and there are a lot of spaces available on Clarendon. Also, like I had mentioned, the drop off and pickup is spread out over several hours. It isn't like a school, so you don't really have that specific time where parents come and pick up. So there is a 2-3 hour kind of, some parents pick up at 3, some at 4, 5. It just depends on when, what kind of work they're doing and when they get off work and when they pick up their kids. So we So we haven't typically in daycare situations seen a real rush at a particular time of the day. And so we're comfortable with those spaces that are available for parents to do the quick drop in and pick up, and this is only for 3 and 4 year olds. So we're not talking about kids, in a
You want to go to the
carrier or
park?
any.
Come on, honey, let's go.
Um,
Sorry.
that's okay. So we're not talking about, that, are in a car seat or something like that. They're walking in with their parents.
Do we have a visual of what this loading zone looks like? Can we see that on the site plan?
Well, the loading zone is going to be, if you have the site plan that Jamie has up, the loading zone is going to be the entire Clarendon frontage. So we haven't really defined, the limits, but you see that it's unparked from the first alley labeled south of Broad Street down to their private parking entrance, which is on the south side above the Boys and Girls Club text. So it's, I'd say ballpark, it's probably at least 8 or 10 spaces that you could have vehicles parked there through that stretch.
Oh, so it's not designed yet? Is that what we're saying?
We're not going to design a pull-off. We're going to sign a loading zone. So sometimes you see loading zones that are physically kind of like valet. We will just sign this because the street width is there. You can already park on both sides.
Okay, thank you.
I was reading in the text says this is part of a 3-building complex. How does that work into shared use parking? Or does it?
I think what you're talking about is the fact that they are. So when we designed this, because we are immediately adjacent to Highland Elementary as well as north of the J. Ashburn Youth Center, there is a possibility that there may be children from one facility use facility. That's what that means. 3 project complex. We haven't really worked through the details of that yet. So in fact, you will not probably see anything because we still have to. It's getting into other adjacent properties, and those agreements haven't been reached. So, but that is the intent: is that there will be some flow of traffic of children between facilities, and enable them to use each other's facilities.
Madam Chair, from my perspective, if this was an applicant, any normal applicant, with so many question marks and stuff into the future, and we haven't negotiated this, negotiated that, there'd be no way we'd even consider this application. And I have all kind of problems with stuff that could happen, might happen, hasn't been negotiated with. It's just a huge problem for me.
Okay. Mrs. Banya, do you want to separate the variances, or do you want to have us vote on them as a whole?
So if we were to separate the variances, then we would just come back. We would still have to come back for the parking variance as we.
Yeah, once you had a better handle on what your parking solution was going to be, I think that would get us to some comfort level of the, the significant drop.
I guess I would like to check in with the client.
Okay, you can do that while I call and see if there's anybody here that wants to speak for or against this application. Is there?
Sure.
You don't have a long time, but.
Yeah, I'm gonna try quickly.
Is there anybody here that wants to speak for or against this application? Please unmute and identify yourself. Okay.
Chair Palmer, I do have a question, just for my division and department's clarity. I don't think that Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think we've ever really came to one where we had Division of Parking Services do a study and have so much support on the study. I'm guessing if the board, has a issue with the amount of parking spaces being varied, that will probably go back to the Division of Parking Services. I guess for transparency, what would the, I guess, is it just really going from 35 to 5, or, because I mean, they have approval and they have already required them to do a study. So from Division of Public Service, we don't have anything else we would require on the parking if they came back to us. Like, we've already done the study, so I don't know where we go from here.
I guess I can speak first and let the others chime in, but I guess my thought is that whenever we're looking at a parking variance, we're looking at is the space going to be used safely, properly without the parking? So this is asking for a daycare. And we understand the capacity, we understand the staffing, and so where are those people going to park? We don't want to put pressure on the surrounding neighborhood. We don't want to create a unsafe space where you have you know kids and things walking. It just what's the alternatives? I don't even know that there's another parking study that needs to be done. I don't know that there's even anything for parking services to do. I think it's the applicant coming to say, this is the resolution of where people are going to park. And she spoke about some other lots they were trying to acquire or agreements they were trying to get into. That probably needs to be solidified before we can take a vote. That's my thoughts.
Okay, yeah, because from our perspective, the public street was the realm which we were allowing parking because people are allowed to park on public streets. So the study showed the occupancy was very low, that we were allowing that the streets could absorb that additional 30 parking spaces and the additional drop off. So I guess that's just my department's stance, but I wanted to be available to answer any questions.
So I guess I have an issue with the parking calculation on this. Why is it even 35? Like, that just seems low to begin with. If they've already identified they're gonna have 35 staff, granted spread out over time, but staff and parents and how did we even get to such a low number with the square footage?
We calculated based on zoning requirements, so it's the number of students, and we went through that with Division of Zoning. It's been a while, so I can't recall exactly, but that's based just on the zoning code. And when I said staff of, that, like I said, they are in shift, so they're not all there at the same time and things like that. So yeah, the minimum staffing is probably less than what I was saying.
Right.
I would like to, address what was spoken to before. I mean, I understand that, there are concerns and the available parking, but the parking study, and with the understanding that we are able to, like was indicated, add a loading zone that is pretty much the length of our property on Clarendon, which adds about 8 to 10 spaces in addition to the 5 that we have on site. That's about 15 spaces for parent pickup, drop off, and that leaves us with 20 additional spaces that would be needed for zoning, which would easily be accommodated on what's just on Clarendon, as shown by the parking study. We are not in a position to say that what other agreements might be made. This is a project for the city of Columbus, so as you can imagine, those are not easy things to achieve. So, we do want to kind of take the parking study and really kind of understand why the existing street availability for parking is not meeting the requirement, if that is in fact able to absorb the parking that is required by zoning for the project. So I am also, I don't think between now and when we come back, we will have any other agreements in place. So how can we address this concern without already showing through a parking study?
And Jamie, Jamie, if this board is supposed to take the Division of Parking Services answer as the final answer, I'm happy to do that too. I don't even know if we ever have gotten a parking study. I know that we've gotten traffic studies. And so if this is the word from that we're supposed to go by, then so be it. But tell me that.
It is, yeah. That's based on years of parking variances culminating in one subsect of Brandon's division. They go out and physically survey the land and figure out what is required and what is acceptable. And this is what the experts have deemed acceptable based on, I had the code up here a second ago. The parking for a child daycare is one space per 500 square feet. So that's a pretty low intense use. And if the parking, the Division of Parking Services, which was created not specifically for the Board of Zoning Adjustment, but as a great guide, has deemed it acceptable. That's why staff is recommending approval.
So I have a question for Brandon. So Brandon, thank you for sharing what you have. And if we look at housing stock, because this area is going to continue to develop, so it's not even that we won't concede that today that we'll say that there's accessible parking, right? That's today. But the changes that we're putting in place are permanent, and they will be there in 10 years when development and additional development for housing has been created. And the load then will be different than it is today. So is there any consideration in your parking study that kind of contemplates how Columbus is growing, for example, and looking at how areas are redeveloping, not just the snapshot in time, a week ago and 2 weeks ago, and seeing that there's adequate parking on Clarendon. I respect that. But we're looking at areas that have grown and busted at the seams in a lot of cases, just like downtown, where they've gone kind of haywire with trying to recreate a downtown parking plan, and it doesn't support downtown housing like it should. I guess we're looking at long-term, not just today or not next month or next year, but what is the impact going to be long-term? And so with the traffic expert, and I know you guys are experts at this, how do you look at quantifying the future development or redevelopment?
I guess for this site specifically, there's probably two easy solutions. The one solution we say just off of face value is that a daycare use does not have the same peak hour usage as a residential house. So those are kind of opposites. I would say, you're from 9 to 5, you're not really parking at your house, I guess, if the pandemic's over. But from 9 to 5, your vehicle is not going to be parked at your house. Those are the vehicles that are going to be parked at daycare. Most of the spaces associated with the daycare, even though zoning code sees them as pretty low, are high turnover. I mean, the spaces are 5 to 10 minutes and they're gone. Really, nobody goes to a daycare and parks there aside from the employees. You see it downtown. You see it in the short north. We have the availability of adding meters. We have the availability of adding permit parking. The general consensus from the Division of Parking Services, which was essentially created, I mean, it's our newest division. It's like 3 years old, was created as a branch of traffic management, created just to study these scenarios to get more parking on street, to kind of get Columbus to look and act like a big city. As you see in this area of town, even in a lot of areas, there's low parking utilization on the street. So accepting, units like this and businesses like this to up that number to a reasonable number is really what the goal of parking services is. But I think when we begin to swell and it's unmanageable, we also always have the reservation to do permit parking, meter parking, reservations of that sort. But looking at this and looking at the present day, we kind of see that the uses are interchangeable and completely opposite. And just looking at the streets and surrounding areas, you can probably park 100 vehicles out there right now. There's that much parking that we it's kind of like an easy one for us.
Okay, thank you.
I think we need to rely on our experts on this one. I mean, I'm feeling more comfortable now after hearing the explanations and what's coming into this. And there has been thought. I think there's more thought into this than I anticipated initially. So I'm comfortable with the recommendation from parking.
Yeah, I am too. I appreciate Jamie and Brandon kind of giving us the insight on that. Thank you. So do we have any other questions for the applicant? Okay, having nobody here to speak on this application, are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Okay, question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
So the rule has always been whoever calls the question never gets called on bar. That's exactly why I did this. I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Mr. Demora?
No.
Chair Palmer Bay?
Yes.
All right. Variance is granted.
Variance is granted. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I 844 Franklin Avenue. Is the applicant here? Can you identify yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tom Davis. I am the owner.
Hi, Tom. Can you raise your right hand? Sorry, I'm meant to call you Mr. Davis, not Tom. I don't know you.
It's okay.
Do you promise to tell the truth, nothing but the truth tonight in your testimony? Please say I do.
I do.
Thank you. So we'll hear from the city first, and then we'll get back to you.
Okay.
All right, we've got BZA 20-018 at 844 Franklin Avenue. This is located on the northwest corner of Franklin Avenue and South 17th Street in the Near East Area Commission. It's zoned R3. The site consists of a single parcel and is being developed with a single unit dwelling and detached garage. The applicant proposes a 2-story garage with storage overhead, and a variance to increase the allowable height is necessary, and that variance would be from 15 feet to 27.5 feet. The Near East Area Plan recommends that accessory units should be compatible with the primary residence and new housing be compatible with existing architecture in the neighborhood. Although not currently proposed as an accessory unit, staff recognizes prevailing trends in the Near East support the continued development of accessory units. In the event that this space proposed as an accessory unit in the future, staff view the inclusion of additional windows as being appropriate of plans design guidelines. The Division of Traffic Management has no issue with the requested variance. As of writing this report, no recommendation from the Near East Area Commission has been received, and I've reached out to both Chair Palmer or Chair Kathleen Bailey, Ms. as well, and they have not responded to me, but I was in contact with Krista LaRussa, who I believe is in here. She has informed me that they have been to the final Near East Area Commission meeting and have received approval, but we can ask the applicant when I'm done. Staff can recommend approval of the garage height variance as the owner is proposing this additional space for storage. The condition that exhibits be stamped by the board is only to ensure that compatible roof pitch, if additional windows are added at a later date to accommodate an accessory dwelling unit, they will not be hampered by the commitment to exhibits, and we do recommend that the exhibits be conditioned as well.
Okay, Mr. Davis, do you have anything else to say about this application? Did you speak with the Near East Area Commission?
Yeah, we've had 4 separate meetings with them, I think.
Okay, and they took a vote?
Yes, I believe they took a vote.
And you were there for the vote, or you don't know?
I wasn't there for the vote, but Krista LaRussa was there, and I think she's on this call.
Okay, I'll have her speak.
So she may know if they voted on the, I didn't make the last one, my wife did.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add to about the application before I get
No,
so?
no, the house is completely finished now, and we're ready to move in. We'd like to have a garage, so
Okay.
I guess that's the only thing I'd say.
And you confirmed there is no dwelling space?
Correct.
And you are fine with us stamping these plans as the final plans for the space?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, is there any other questions from the board members? Okay, is there anybody here to speak for this property? I think I did see Miss LaRosa online. You can take yourself off of mute and identify yourself. Okay, maybe she's not. There she is. Hello?
That's not her.
Hello, Miss LaRosa? Can everybody else put your phone on mute, please? I can't hear anybody. Okay, there we go. Miss LaRosa? I saw her speak in the chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Will that be sufficient if we ask her in the chat whether or not the Near East Commission approved this? I don't think that she's able to participate on the.
She might be one of the call-in users.
No, I saw her name on the I just don't think her audio is good for some reason. I think Mr. Moret is dialoguing with her now.
Okay, that'd be great.
She's confirmed that NEAC approved them.
Huh?
In the chat, she has confirmed that NEAC, yes, has approved.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, yeah, that was my understanding, but I just didn't know it for sure.
Okay. Is there anybody else here that wants to speak about this application? Please unmute yourself and identify. Okay.
I'll call a question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. 1102, 1104 Wilson Avenue. Is the applicant here? Can you unmute, identify yourself, please?
Yes, Jordan Henderson with Healthy Homes.
Hello, Mr. Henderson. Can you raise your right hand? Do you testify, do you promise that the testimony you give tonight be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, great. We'll hear from the city, then we'll come back to you. Go ahead, Mr. Rice.
Dave, are you on mute again? Yes, he is. Dave, try again. Dave, are you there?
He's talking on his screen, his little.
His phone, his actual phone might be muted. Dave,
You want me to read his report?
yeah, go ahead. I'm going to go see what's going on.
All right. BZA 20-029 at 1102 and 1104 Wilson Avenue, located on the east side of Wilson Avenue, approximately 133 feet south of East Whitmer Street. This is in the South Side Area Commission and zoned R4. The site is currently not developed, but was once occupied by a 2-unit dwelling. The applicant proposes to construct a new 2-unit dwelling and is asking to reduce the required parking spaces from 4 to 3 and to reduce the minimum side yards on both the north and south sides of the lot from 5 feet to 3 feet 4 inches. Columbus citywide planning policies provide criteria for evaluating parking reductions, which includes the presence of on-street parking, access to transit, and the extent of the variance requested. This proposal meets all of those criteria. There is adequate on-street parking, there is access to transit along East Whitmer Street, and the variance is relatively minor. Furthermore, the proposed off-street parking follows the plan's guidelines with regards to placement and access. With the received elevations, planning is now in full support. The proposal is consistent with E2P2 design guidelines. The Division of Traffic Management has no comment regarding this request. The Southside Area Commission recommends approval of this request. The applicant proposes to construct a 2-unit dwelling on a vacant parcel. The parcel was once occupied by a 2-unit dwelling. The applicant would provide 3 parking spaces and needs a reduction in the minimum side yards required. Staff supports these variances requested since this is primarily a parking reduction issue. The Division of Traffic Management and the Planning Division have no issues with this request, and the side yards would be reduced by 1 foot 8 inches on both the north and south sides of the proposed structure. For these reasons, city departments recommend approval, and hopefully Dave is back and can answer questions.
Okay. Mr. Henderson, do you have anything to add about this application?
No, I think the report covered it adequately. Thank you.
Okay.
I am happy to
Do
answer
we have any other
questions.
questions? Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Henderson? Okay. Is there anybody here tonight to speak about this application? Please take yourself off mute and identify yourself. Okay. No one has come forward. If
I'll
we
call
did
the
any
question.
questions been called, please call the roll, Ms. Moret.
Who called the question?
Oh, good.
Demora?
Okay. Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Mr. Demora?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Sheriff Palmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see Jamie back.
Well, luckily Phil's up.
Okay. So, but I don't know who's controlling the
Oh, yeah.
Here he
We should
is.
probably,
Okay, we're ready for 262 East Stewart Avenue. Jamie?
Yeah, can you see it now?
Not yet.
we see you.
We see you.
Oh.
Is the applicant here for 262 East Stewart Avenue? Please unmute and identify yourself. Hello, applicant.
I think I did see Mr. Mondrake here earlier.
I'm
Okay,
here.
so we don't have, oh, Mr. Mundrake?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name for the record.
Dustin Mondrak, Milhone
Okay,
Architects.
can you raise
300.
your,
Yep.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Nope, that's all right.
Okay, do you promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, we will hear from the city, then we'll come back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 262 East Stewart Avenue is located on the north side of East Stewart Avenue, approximately 225 feet east of Yeager Street, served by the Columbus Southside Area Commission. It's zoned R2F residential. The site is developed with a single unit dwelling and detached garage. Surrounding uses are all single and 2-unit dwellings. The applicant proposes to expand above the private garage for a home office and gym. Variances are to reduce the minimum eastern side yard from 3 feet to 8 inches and to increase the garage height from 15 feet to 21 feet, 8 inches. The Southside plan states that the design and character of new housing should be compatible with adjacent nearby housing with respect to height, width, and setback. The image that Jamie is showing here is the rendering with the arrow showing the actual proposed garage. The proposed second-story addition to the garage will be of a similar height and width to neighboring garages and is therefore supported by planning. No comments from traffic. The Columbus Southside Area Commission recommends approval of this request, and city departments recommend approval. Planning Division has determined that the proposal is compatible with adjacent nearby housing and therefore consistent with the area plan. We recommend 2 conditions. One is a typical condition that we recommend when side yards are reduced to less than 3 feet, and that's a maintenance easement agreement with the adjacent property owner to the east, and committing to stamp building elevations to make sure that the pitch of the roof is committed to. Madam Chair.
Eleanor, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Mandrock, do you agree that these are the final elevations that can be stamped for the record?
Yes.
Okay. And also, do you agree with getting a maintenance easement agreement with the adjacent property owner where the side yard is being reduced?
Yes. Aaron Faniff is the applicant and property owner, and I believe he made a note in the chat that he might be otherwise occupied right now on the telephone. He had some reservations about that, but if that's a requirement, then that's just something that we'll make sure we match.
Yeah, that's something that we usually require when you're getting so close that you possibly have to get onto somebody else's property to maintain your own. So
Yep.
it's pretty standard. It's nothing limiting your use of it. It's just actually protecting your use of it actually.
We understand. Yep.
Okay.
And I'm actually on the line. I don't know if you guys can hear me now. I tried to just get in with another computer because this other computer wasn't working. Can you guys hear me? This is Aaron Fana.
Can you, I'm sorry, can you see me?
I can see you, yes.
Okay, can you raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead. You have something to say?
No, yes, I did speak with a neighboring property owner, Trevor Brown, and he was willing to sign or an affidavit and affirm that he was being lenient with me as far as anything with maintenance and use that would be necessary. He'd had no problems with that.
Okay, so
So I
you're
did approach him
Okay.
about this.
Okay, so you're fine with actually getting the easement then?
Okay, so it would be, that was actually my question. So it is a formal easement because I know that there was not one attached to the property as it currently stands. But I
Yeah,
wasn't sure if we needed to go.
I don't think that there would be one where it currently stands because you were within there was no reason to be on another person's property to maintain your own.
Well, there is, because the property is actually, the garage structure is currently on the property line.
Oh.
Regardless of that, sir, in order to make the modification, that's what's triggering this. So it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, is there any other questions for this applicant? Just to confirm, there's no living habitable space in that second story or?
Correct. Office and gym will be, it is not going to be inhabited.
Okay. Is there anybody here on the line that wants to speak about this application? Can you take yourself off of mute and identify yourself?
Madam Chair, this is Eric Welderly. I just wanted to let you know I'm on, as well as for staff. I obviously won't vote on this issue as I didn't hear what was going on, but I'm now present and will vote on the future cases.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson. Is there anybody else here that wants to speak on this application? Okay, do we have any additional questions?
I'll call the question.
Okay, question has been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Mora?
Yes.
Mayor Palmer Bay?
Yes, your variances are approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay, 1100 Obetz Road, is the applicant on the line? Can you take your?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello? Can you, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Can you state your name for the record?
Jackson B. Reynolds III.
Can you raise your right hand? Promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth, please do.
I do.
Okay, can I ask anyone else to place your computers or your phone on mute, please? Okay, go ahead.
For me?
Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, Jack, are you using your computer microphone and your computer?
I think you have two people on at the same location, and so that's creating the echo.
Is it still echoing?
No. Yes,
Okay.
it is. It's actually, the echo is coming from us speaking to you.
It's the people that get on the phone.
I don't know who Stanley Johnson is. Can you place your?
I think Jack. When we are talking, the sound is coming through your computer and then going back to your computer. Are you using a phone?
No, sir, not at all.
Okay, if you could disable the audio on your computer and then call in, it would cut out the reverb.
Just give me a second.
Okay.
Okay. I'll go through my presentation. I'll go slowly and hopefully you'll be logged back.
Go ahead and put your computer on mute while we're doing that.
Okay.
Yes, perfect.
It's not him.
Not him?
It looks like it's C gear.
Yes,
Yeah.
C
I
gear.
just
Can
muted.
you? Okay,
I muted him. We're good.
perfect. Okay, go ahead, Jamie.
Okay, we'll have to apologize to Jack in a minute. All right, 1100 Obetz Road is located at the north side of Obetz Road, approximately 100 feet west of Cross Point Drive. The site is within the far south Columbus Area Commission and Zone R Rural. The 9.76 acre site is developed with a church and a parsonage. The surrounding neighborhood was platted for single unit dwellings with a typical lot size being 0.16 acres, as you can see from the aerial. The applicant proposes to split off a 1 acre portion of the lot containing the parsonage and sell it as a single unit dwelling and request a variance to reduce the minimum lot area from 5 acres to 1 acre. In an R rural area district, a single family dwelling or any other principal building shall be situated on a lot of no less than 5 acres in area. The Scioto Southland Area Plan does not address this matter. Staff notes that no changes are currently proposed to the existing built conditions on site. The Division of Traffic Management states that right-of-way dedication of 40 feet from the center line of Obetz Road will be required. The Far South Columbus Area Commission recommends approval of this request. City staff can recommend approval as a newly created 1 acre lot containing a single unit dwelling will be more in character with the surrounding neighborhood, which was platted for single unit dwellings with a typical lot size being 0.16 acres. We're not asking for any conditions, and we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, Mr. Reynolds, are you back with us?
You might be on mute.
Mr. Reynolds?
There we go. Did it unmute?
Yes, I hear you now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, do you have anything to tell us about this application?
No, the church was interested in selling the old parsonage off, and so we annexed the property into the city of Columbus, and there was some concern in the neighborhood about redeveloping the property. So we decided that it would make sense to leave it rural for the house lot, and therefore there could be no denser development on the property. That's why we sought the variance to reduce from 5 acres to 1 acre.
Okay, do we have any questions for this applicant? Is there anybody on the line that wishes to speak about this application? Please unmute and identify yourself. Okay, hearing none. Are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Mr. Wadelli, Mr. Wellesley,
You're on
They're
mute.
muted.
You're on mute.
All right, Mr. Jones. And Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Thank you, folks, very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, application 606 Indian Mound Road. Would the applicant unmute and identify yourself, please?
This is Jean Cabral.
Okay, Ms. Cabral, I already have you sworn in, so I will just have the city present and then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Rice.
Is Dave on mute? I see his face.
Mario, unmute your.
Michael, would you mind reading the report again? I'm going to go see if I can help him one last time.
On it. Okay. This is BZA 20-036. You just want to scroll to the site plan or whatever the final. There we go. 606 Indian Mound Road, located on the east side of Indian Mound Road, approximately 466 feet north of Plum Orchard Road. This is within the Far East Area Commission and zoned RRR, Restricted Rural Residential District. The site is developed with a brick, 2,342 square foot single unit dwelling, construction in 1971 in a single unit residential subdivision. The applicant construct a new 15-foot tall, 800 square foot detached garage. A variance for an increased amount of square footage devoted to garage space is required. Columbus citywide planning policies state that garages should be to the rear of the principal building and be appropriate and based on the principal and nearby structures in terms of height, width, setback, lot coverage, and roof pitch. Planning is in full support of this request since the elevations are consistent with C2P2 design guidelines. The Division of Traffic Management has no comment with regards to this request. The Far East Area Commission recommends disapproval of this application. The applicant proposes to construct an 800 square foot detached garage where there is an existing 400 square foot attached garage. The total square footage of garage space on the site would total 1,200 square feet. 772 square feet of garage space is allowable based on the habitable living space of the dwelling. The actual square footage of additional garage space requested is 428 square feet, even though the detached garage footprint proposed is 800 square feet in area. The applicant would be allowed to construct 372 square feet of additional garage space without a variance. There being no objections from any city department, and because the C2P2 design guidelines for development are being met, staff is able to support this request with the condition that no portion of the structures on this property shall be used for any business purposes other than for a home occupation.
So I guess my question for city staff on this one, and I apologize, Mr. Moret, because this is not your case, but typically we've only allowed these additional garage over the maximum when it's a rural area. Does that meet that qualification?
Going to the aerial photography, which is in your staff report packet, but because Jamie's not at his computer, he can't scroll to it. These look like they're large lots, but the additional garage space that's detached doesn't look to be the norm. It looks like mostly attached garages in the area.
Yeah, it's not in a rural location by any means.
Yeah, so I think you can share your content, Mr. Moret, whatever you're looking at.
Hey, Michael, can you hear and see me?
Oh, Mr. Rice, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sit down, Dave.
All right, thank you. Michael, thanks for stepping in there. I'm having terrible technical difficulties here today. I don't know why, but so I don't know everything that was said so far.
So he read off the whole report, and my question was, how did staff get comfortable with approving this? Because usually we only allow these additional garage spaces when there's in a rural area. And so that was my question. And I think we wanted Jamie to take us to the aerial view.
Okay, so here's what I can tell you. The city staff's opinion is primarily based on what the planning division had to say about the situation, and that's the largest reason why. It's the lots there are they're larger than city lots normally are, but yes, you're right, they're not vast acreages. But yet at the same time, we felt okay about it mostly because it met the standards that the planning division set or have relayed in the report. So that's about it.
So I guess maybe I'm reading this wrong. It says based on the principal and nearby structures in terms of height, width, setbacks, lot coverage, and roof pitch. I don't see any other garages that are not attached to the building.
May I say
Right.
something?
There are a few in the area. I can tell you that we received information today about other locations in the area that are nearby. There are a few in the area. Let's see. There's one. Total square footage is well, I've got about a half a dozen, or well, yeah, about 6 or 8 here. Garage area is 948 square feet. There's one 1,800 square feet. There's another property that has 800 square feet of garage, a bathhouse that's 1,307 and 361 square foot gazebo. The next, there's a property on Old Farm that has 1,545, and a property on Woodridge that has 2,019. So there are a few around, but it's, I'll admit that an 800 square foot structure is quite large. So it would be an impressive structure for sure.
Okay. We'll hear from the applicant. Go ahead, Mrs. Cabral.
Hi, this is an existing development called Greenbrier Farms that was developed in the late 50s, early 60s. There are no deed restrictions that disallow detached garages. In fact, I had provided today to Dave, there's one, two.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
I'm having a hard time understanding you, and I don't know if it's something is muffling your microphone or something, but it's really hard for me to understand you.
The microphone's above. Can you still hear me?
If you speak towards it, yes, it's better that way.
Okay. I was looking at my notes here. There are 8 other houses in Greenbrier Farms that have detached garages. One was even granted a variance in 2017 to construct 2,000 square foot of detached garage, and there were no objections to it at that time. These houses are very, very large. Most of them are. In this whole development, I counted over 120 sheds. So if there was enough garage space, there wouldn't be 120 sheds in this whole development. The neighbors are up in arms about this, and I think it has for reasons other than to do with the size of the garage, because there are others. There's one that's 1,800 feet. There's one that's 2,000 square feet. There's another one that's 720 detached. So to say that this is not the norm isn't really correct. Again, they tried to throw kinds of, I think there's a petition that started or whatever, but there is a history of approvals as well as other structures in the neighborhood. This lot is ringed by trees. There's really very little way that anybody's going to see it. None of his immediate neighbors are to the right or left or an objection to this. He's trying to just get his cars under the garage. He's an electrician. He has a pickup truck. The neighbors have been accusing him of running his electrical business out of his home. He rents 2 spaces on Johnstown Road. I have the addresses for him. He can show you leases. He does not run his electrical business out of his home. So that's just something that's kind of just blown up. I don't know why the fervor is against this particular garage, because if you saw the pictures that Jamie put up, it's going to be behind the house to the left. It's going to look like other garages in the neighborhood that are 3-car. There are other attached 3-car garages that are just as big as this garage is going to be. Now,
And the house has a 2-car garage already?
it does. He lives with his son and his mother. They each have an individual car. He has his pickup truck that's not that huge, and he also has an extra special, fancy car. So he wants to get them in a garage because of all the sap from the large pine trees that are right next to his driveway, and that's a big reason he wants to get the garage in there. Now, just so you know, that if he converted the 2-car existing garage to living space, which would up his livable square footage of the house, without a variance, he could build an even bigger garage without a variance. He could put a 913 square foot garage on there if he converts that land. So it's a win. I think it's a win-win for the neighborhood. I mean, he can either go bigger and put a 4-car garage on there, or leave the 2-car garage as it is and add the 800 square foot garage. But there are other people that have big garages and a lot of square footage. Combined, one house has a detached and an attached at 1,545 square feet. There's another one that has 948 square foot of attached. You can detach it with a very small house. So, and all the sheds in the neighborhood. So there were no deed restrictions against this as far as materials, height, size, detached, attached. And basically it has to do with opinion that they think that he's running an electrical business out of his home, and maybe there's some other reasons as well that I don't know about.
Does the board have any questions for this applicant?
No, I'm just the neighbor not being against it. Again, we're getting a Far East Side is against it. That concerns me.
And not only that, it sounds like I heard recognition that we approved one case in 2017. I think at least 3 of us were on this board in 2017, so I'd love to hear some history, Jamie, if you can provide that. Also, the continued reference to sheds, based on when this neighborhood was built, houses were built with sheds, and a lot of people installed sheds based on the age of the houses. So I don't think that that's a fair argument as to any kind of justification for adding this huge garage. So I also want to hear from the neighborhood and or the association to see what their concerns are.
There are 2 detached garages that are a lot bigger than this garage is proposed. Over 2 times as big, 2,000 square foot and 1,500 and 1,800. So those are huge garages.
Well, you're here for a reason, ma'am. If it was allowed, you would do it, right? So we're just trying to vet it all out. Okay. And I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Sure.
Is there anybody here that would like to speak for or against this application? Please unmute yourself and identify yourself.
Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yes, please go ahead, please. I think it's Miss Nelson, Miss Nellen.
Nellen, yes. We also have Attorney Christopher Gear, who is probably coming in at the same time. So I'd like to let him speak first, and then I go second, please.
Okay.
If that was okay.
Chris needs to unmute.
Mr. Gear, are you there?
Yes, I am. All right, I put my computer on mute. And I have you on speakerphone. So let me put my phone on hold.
Can you take it off of speakerphone and just have it on regular? I can't hear you.
currently muted. He's
Can you hear
unmuted.
me?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, can you state your name for the record, please?
Sir, my name is Christopher Gear.
Okay, and will you
And
raise your hand?
I will.
And you promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Thank you for working through the technical difficulties. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Thank you. All right. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Isaac Wiles, but more importantly, I have been a resident of Greenbrier Farm since 1981. My children were raised there. My wife and I live there, and we have no intention of ever leaving. There are 364 homes in Greenbrier Farm. It's located off beautiful No Bixby Historic Road on between East Main and East Broad Streets. Our neighborhood has no sidewalks because it's highly wooded and it's pristine. We have a large membership in the Greenbrier Farms Homeowners Association. The lots vary in size from a half acre to up to an acre. Now this house on Indian Mound, there was another house on Indian Mound that recently sold for $535,000. So this is a substantial neighborhood. We're very proud of it, and we maintain it very well. We need to remember and be cognizant of the nature of our neighborhood. We are overwhelmingly against the requested variance. Mr. Sullivan, the applicant, is an electrical contractor. As such, he probably has equipment and inventory to store. Greenbrier is very concerned that he intends to use the large new space for storage of his equipment, his inventory, and perhaps even preparatory work for his business. Sullivan also has a food truck business. His food truck is regularly parked in his driveway. In fact, if you go to the auditor's website and look at aerial views, you'll see the food truck right beside his house in the driveway. We fear the diminution of the character and value of our homes if this board opens the floodgates to more and more similar activities in the future, will result, as it will be the result of the approval of this variance. A very large number of Columbus residents would be adversely affected by one resident who wishes to push the boundaries. Now, I heard that there were other garages and outbuildings that staff made reference to in the area. I don't know if that was actually in Greenbrier Farms. Greenbrier Farms is sited on one side by the Outer Belt, the other side by New Bixby and Big Walnut Creek. It is completely separate from many of the other neighborhoods in the area. Now, in the proposal, Mr. Sullivan talks about what he uses his present garage for, or what he intends to use his present garage for lawn care equipment. Apparently, he doesn't even cut his own lawn. He uses a lawn mowing service. Further,
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I hate to interrupt, but 3 minutes has been up. I don't know if you made that announcement beforehand. If you want to extend the applicant's speech a little bit, but 3 minutes is up.
Yeah, so we usually allow 3 minutes for testimony. So if you can, Mr. Gear, if you can wrap up this point.
I will.
Thank you.
Far East Commission has unanimously voted disapproval of the variance. The Greenbrier Civic Association had a meeting the other night. 50 votes were cast. 46 were against the approval of this variance. We ask the board to disapprove.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think there was Miss Nellen was wanting to be next. Can you take yourself off mute?
I have taken myself off mute. Thank you, Ms.
Please.
Chair.
Okay, please state your name for the record.
My name is Carolyn L. Nellen, and that's Nellen with an N, please.
Okay, and do you promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead with your
And
testimony.
I have written notes, so I'll read them quickly and should be within the 3 minutes.
Okay, thank
So
you.
as I've stated, my name is Carolyn L. Nellen, and I will be speaking against the variance request for 606 Indian Mound Road. My husband, Ernie, and I own property on Boxford Lane, and our backyards abuts Mr. Sullivan's property. So I am speaking on behalf of our property as well as our neighbors, the Briggses, Stocks, and Zamonskis, whom together in our residencies, we have almost 100 years. So we're objecting to this variance request for the following reasons, okay? The standalone building that Mr. Sullivan has requested at 800 square feet, 15.5 foot high and 9 feet doors would represent a massive structure in a yard that houses an above ground swimming pool and a storage shed. And he also has, at this point, an attached garage. So that would give him a 5-car slot on his property, which is a fairly normal, regular sized property for this development. The attached building would have 9-foot doors, and it would give it a commercial property look. Our garage doors measure about 7 to 8 feet. The interesting part is that this building would infringe on our backyard. It would set right into our backyard almost. And we feel it would ultimately impact our property values as well as the property values of our neighbors. The building itself would be totally out of character with our community and would, in somewhat, most likely violate some of the deed restrictions we do have. But lastly, we think that the variance request if approved, would set a bad precedent and basically would cause other requests to kind of flow in, and we don't want that. The properties are not structured to accommodate large detached buildings of this nature. So in closing, I would just say that we'd ask you to vote no on this variance request because our homes represent our life's works, our investments, our savings, and we have chosen to live in Columbus. Basically, we contribute to Columbus, to our schools, and to our city taxes. So we're asking you to vote no on this. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, can you explain what you meant by your comment on the garage would be, I don't know what the words you used, but on your property?
It wouldn't be on our property. The way they're planning on sitting it, our properties abut along the back.
Okay.
So when they build that property, we would see that property. The architect continues to say that the trees would ring and disguise it. That's not true. It literally would be something that we would look out into our backyard and see.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there anybody else that wants to speak on this application? Please unmute and identify yourself. Okay, hearing none. Are we ready to go? Any more questions for this applicant? Any comments to be made by the board members?
Is it possible that I could say something?
No.
Oh, yeah, sure, ma'am.
Okay. So the lady that just spoke, I don't know, I'm not sure which of the two houses to the east is hers, but from the back of the proposed garage to the back of her house is either 200 or 250 feet. It's not anywhere near her property whatsoever. There's a lot of houses themselves in this whole development that are a lot closer, back to back than we're proposing. So that's one thing. The attorney said
it's 250 feet from the property line. That's what you're saying?
No, not from the property line, from the back of the garage to the back of their house. It's from the property line to the back of the new proposed garage, it's 152 feet. That's a pretty good sized distance. That's deeper than my whole lot, where I live.
So are you looking at the screen right now? Do you see
Yes.
this plot? Okay, so we're looking at the orientation of the house. I'm calling the back where you have this 3-2-1 property line. Is that what you're calling the back?
No, the back would be to the right property line. That's 78 lineal feet.
Oh, so that you're calling that the back. Okay.
Yes, and this lady's to the right of that. She abuts that 78-foot property line.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, but there's two houses that overlap his back property line, and I measured, as proposed, the garage is 152 feet to the back, his property line. And from that property line, there's another 100 foot at minimum on one of the lots to the back of the house, as well as there's another house that's it's about another 50, 60 feet. So they're quite a bit of ways, and you can see it's pretty heavily treed. If you're looking at the right-hand blue line, you can see how dense those trees are. The other thing that this does not violate any deed restrictions. We've looked over them quite extensively. She didn't mention the wrong height. We're sticking within the allowable that Columbus allows, which is 15 feet, not 15'6". The attorney also says that he's concerned for property values. I've been going in and out of this community for over 50 years myself. I have a lot of friends that lived here when I was in high school. It's a very lovely community, a lot of nice homes. But there are a lot of, there are a fair number of detached garages in here. We talked about, again, alleging that he's running his electrical business out of his home. He does not, other than he gets mail there. But he does not run his electrical business out. If he'd like to walk through his home, probably he would let them. I've been through it. I've been through the first floor of his house. I've been through his house. There's nothing in the backyard that's electrical in nature behind the fence. So there's allegations being made that don't have anything really to do with this garage. So that's, I know that the 50 votes were taken, but that was 50 out of 360 people that came to that meeting.
Okay. Do we have any, Jamie, were you able to find the one in this neighborhood that I guess the applicant said that we approved? Were you able to find verification of that?
No, I didn't know I was even supposed to be looking. I'm not even sure where this neighborhood is.
Well, I've got a
case number?
I have the case number. It's BZA 17-065.
I'm on it.
Thank you.
Looks like a few people have their hands up. Dave Fogg and Mark Payson. If you want to address their comments, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay, go ahead. I didn't see them. So who was it?
I'm Dave Fogg. I'll go before Mark. I just like to know the addresses, if possible, of all these other houses in our subdivision that have detached garages. I am not aware of them, other than the Rose property on Nobixby, which does not or is not a part of Greenbrier Farm.
Okay, Mr. Fogg, I don't think you spoke before. Do you promise that your testimony tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do. My right hand is up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll take that. We don't really allow you to direct question the applicant, but we can take your question down and have the applicant speak to that once we hear from all the other neighbors.
How could I put it that it would be acceptable to ask the zoning board, because we keep referencing these other properties, but yet we don't have addresses. I mean, there's no proof that this exists.
Well, I can send, if you give me your email address right now, I can email it to you.
How about just sharing it with all of us?
Okay, no problem.
So yeah, we have that as a question, sir.
Thank you.
The next person, can you identify your name, please?
Guess not.
I think there was, who'd you say, Jamie, the person was?
Payson, Mr. Payson.
Hello, Mr. Faison?
Mark Passion, could you hear them?
Oh, somebody's saying in the chat that I can hear you, but we can't hear you, Mr. Mark Faison. What phone number can I call? He's asking for the phone number. Can somebody from staff put in the number?
Mark, if you click on the More Options button that's at the very bottom, 3 little dots, and you go to Audio Connection, you can have them call you, which is probably easiest.
Is there anybody else, neighbors that wanted to speak on this?
Okay.
Okay, somebody's in there?
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes. Please state your name
Okay.
for the record, please.
My name is Mark Faison.
And then I'll swear you in if you can raise your right hand and you promise.
Try that one.
You promise that the testimony you give tonight with the truth, nothing but the truth. Please say it, I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think the key here, as Mr. Gear started saying, is this is a residential area, and his architect can say what she wishes, but if you look at the very pictures that you were posting earlier, you can see the food trailer that he parks in his driveway 6 out of 7 days, except for Sundays when he's working the food trailer. She can say that he's not running his electrical business out of there, but he is. And what they're attempting to do is to put a commercial size structure in a residential area to accommodate a commercial activity. And I know we have remedies for that through 311, but it's important that he not be allowed to build a structure of this size with a 9-foot garage door height. Every other garage door in this neighborhood is 7 feet. I know that Ms. Cabral spoke of outliers. There's also one property in this neighborhood that's on 9.5 acres, but that's not the norm. And he is trying to, if you look at where he did an addition to his driveway previously, the driveway is blacktop, the addition is concrete, everything that he does is patchwork. And now they're going to add even more driveway. They're going to encroach 5 feet over to the north, and that neighbor has a picture window that will now look into a garage. It just doesn't fit the neighborhood. It will be an eyesore from the street. There is no way that it can be hidden. And we've been given no assurances that, or details that this will, if it is allowed to be built, will match the neighboring homes or match the existing home. We have no idea which materials it's going to be made out of, but we're very concerned that it's going to change the neighborhood from being very rural, a little hidden gem here on the east side. It's going to be a commercial structure. She talks about changing the existing garage to living space, and then he could build it. But that's a red herring. If he needs space, why would he convert his existing garage to living space? Every time we try to peg her down with a concern, she weaves and bobs and makes up a new reason that something needs to be built or a new excuse of why it's okay. An 800 square foot garage is a massive structure, and to put that where it faces the street in a neighborhood that is all half acre to 1 acre lots, it has a big impact on the nature of the community here. And I would encourage you to vote no. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Possum. Thank you for dealing with the technical glitches as well.
No problem. Thanks.
Do we have other neighbors that want to speak on this before we turn it back over to the applicant to speak on, and Jamie to speak on other homes in this neighborhood?
I found the case that was referenced on No Bixby Road.
Okay.
And I'll bring it up here in a second.
So it was on No Bixby.
Yeah, it's on No Bixby.
Quite a bit different, probably. To the gentleman's point earlier, all of No Bixby may not necessarily be in that neighborhood.
Right. So this was to construct a 2,050 square foot garage with bathroom to replace a previous garage was burned down. So this may have been existing pre-zoning code.
Yeah.
Thank you for that perspective. That's what we needed.
I'll bring it up on the zoning map to show you exactly where it is. Maybe.
Madam Chair, may I give some insight as to one of the outbuildings I'm aware of in our neighborhood?
No, sir, we only really allow people to talk their 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'm sure you understand. Yep. And then I think while you're working on that, oh, there you go, Jamie.
So this is the property in question. That's a 2,050 square foot garage. It's large.
Oh yeah. Okay. Understood.
Bobbing and weaving.
This is Dave Fogg. Could I just give a little bit of insight on the No Bixby property?
No.
That is the Rose property, and the Rose family were the original founders of Greenbrier Farm. They are not a part of the Greenbrier Farm subdivision.
Yeah, that's what we've concluded. Thank you. Okay, so the applicant,
Yes.
can you speak to the issue of other garages, not sheds,
Sure.
in the neighborhood?
5519 Naichi Court Road. It has an attached and a detached garage for a total of 948 square foot.
Did we approve that?
I looked up variances for all these. I could only find the one on No Bixby, 560 No Bixby.
So technically those could be unapproved additions that they're just getting away with in the neighborhood.
Correct. Yes. Okay, then there was 560 No Bixby, the one we just referenced. Then there was 5648 Indian Mound Court, has an attached and a detached, both 100 square foot each for a total of 800, but it also has a 1,300 square foot bathhouse and a 360 square foot gazebo. 800 Noah Bixby has a 625 square foot detached garage. 815 Old Farm Road has a 720 square foot detached and an 825 square foot attached for 1,545 square foot, probably built about 20 years ago. 5699 Old Farm Court has 420 square foot detached. 5550 Woodridge has 1,519 square foot detached garage, as well as it also has under, I believe that's the one that I just saw before we got one online. That one has also an attached garage that's underneath. So there's quite, there's been some history, even though the one that's on 560 No Bixby is not in the original Greenbrier Farm subdivision. It's still close by. I mean, that's one thing. I do take offense, and I don't take it personally, but Mr. Passon was saying that I mute and Bob, but I do have. There's alternatives that we have that we can do. They keep referencing that he's running his electrical business out of his home, which is not true. He does have a food trailer in there. Let me tell you something. I drove that area about 3 or 4 times, the whole subdivision. There's lots of trailers. There's some enclosed trailers that you drag behind a car. There's open bed trailers for landscaping, even 2 across the street from him. So, it's, for some reason, they pinpointed this particular project and they have a lot of anger about it. I don't understand what the thing is. We're not setting any precedent that hasn't already been set in this area. And also, too, I want to remind everybody, there's in this particular area, the northern part of Greenbrier Farms, are the larger houses. Some of these houses have 3-car garages. There's one at 628 Old Farm where the 3 garage doors face Old Farm. So to have a 3-car garage facing Indian Mound isn't that different from the one that's attached. It's just a block over from it. There's some houses that you drive by, and because it's on a corner lot, you see the garage doors. As long as they're done properly. I've been designing custom homes and high-end custom homes for a really, really long time. And Yeah, we didn't provide granted a lot of details on this garage. We're basically asking for the variance for the size of the garage. We also have to go through some sort of an approval process with Greenbrier Farms Association, which I'm not sure how that all works with them, but we'll develop more detailed drawings for them because there's still that process that has to be gone through.
Okay, does the board have any more questions for the applicant? If not, are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Demora,
I'm sorry, what?
Mr. Demora.
You lost your permission to call the roll this round.
Oh, okay.
No, no.
That was Demora. Weldley's also no.
Okay. Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Maleka?
I'm sorry, you guys, wait a minute. Can you redo that? I'm so confused. Please redo the.
Eric?
Can you call the roll again?
I'm trying. Mr. Welderly?
No.
Mr. Demora?
No.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Maleka?
No.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
No, variance is denied.
Thank you very much. I've got another one later. See you later tonight.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we are up to 28 East 13th Avenue. Is the applicant on the line? Can you unmute and identify yourself, please?
Craig Moncrief, attorney for the applicant.
Okay, can you raise your right hand? You promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth. I'm gonna ask you and Mr. Perry to say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Rice.
All right. This is BZA 20-037, 28 13th Avenue. It's located at the northeast corner of Pearl Street Avenue. It is in the area that's served by the University Area Commission, and they recommend approval of this request. The applicant is proposing to convert a 3-unit dwelling into a 4-unit dwelling and to construct a building addition. This necessitates 2 variances. One, to reduce the maximum side yard required from 8 feet, which is 20% of the width of the lot, to the existing sum of the east and west side yards of 2.5 feet. Then the second variance is to reduce the minimum east and west side yards of the existing building from 5 feet to 2 feet on the east side yard, and from a half foot on the west side yard, and to reduce the east side yard of the rear addition from 5 feet to 2.5 feet. City staff is recommending approval. Let's see, there were some conditions on here. Find the right page. There were 4 or 5 conditions. I'll find it here. Okay, here we go. So the first condition recommended is that landscaping be added to the Pearl Street frontage. The second variance or second condition that parking blocks or wheel stops be added to the rear. The third is that the site plan will include a sidewalk to 13th Avenue and from the parking lot to the rear entry. And finally, a crossbar be added to the casement window of the addition. Thank you.
Okay, so first let me ask the applicants, are you okay with these conditions that have been expressed by the city?
Yes, members of the BZA, this is Dave Perry. We agreed all the conditions. They were, those originate from the University Review Board review, which has now been completed, and a certificate of appropriateness has been issued by the review board for the project. So yes, we are agreeable to the conditions.
Okay. Okay. Do you have anything else to add about the application?
Nothing else to add. Happy to answer any questions of the board.
Board, do you have questions?
I'll call the question.
Wait, let me ask if there's anybody here to speak about this application. That's all right. Is there anybody here to speak on this? Can you unmute and identify yourself? Okay, go ahead, Bill.
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Mr. Wadelli? Mr. Baldwin? Ms. Kimura?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, case 340 Green Lawn Avenue. Is the applicant here? Can you unmute and identify yourself, please? Hello, the applicant, 340 Green Lawn Avenue. Maybe you're on mute.
Yeah. Lauren, are you there?
I am. Kevin should be as well.
Okay, can you state your name, please?
Lauren Turnage.
Okay, and the testimony you give tonight, do you promise it will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, I will get the city to explain the case, then we'll come back to you.
Okay, 340 Green Lawn Avenue is located on the north side of Green Lawn Avenue, approximately 840 feet east of Interstate 71. The site is not within any actual area commission, but I believe they did go to the south, where did they go? From the Southwest Area Commission to be a good neighbor. The site is zoned M manufacturing and is developed with a 2,970 square foot eating and drinking establishment. There's an existing patio in the rear, 862 square foot patio in the rear, and a recently constructed 518 square foot patio in the front. The front patio was cited for not obtaining permits or zoning clearance. As far as surrounding uses, to the north is a plumbing supply business. To the east is a City of Columbus fire station. To the west are residential dwellings in an M manufacturing zone district. And to the south are the Berliner softball fields. The applicant proposes to legitimize the new patio and request the following variances. The first is to reduce the minimum aisle width from 17 feet to 13 feet. 13 feet 11 inches to the northern aisle, and from 17 feet to 15 feet 6 inches to the western aisle. It'll be the northern aisle and then the western aisle. Second variance is to reduce the maneuvering area from 17 feet to 13 feet for the eastern aisle, from 17 feet to 13 feet 11 inches for the northern aisle, and from 17 feet to 15 feet 6 inches for the western aisle. Parking space reduction size to reduce the size of a parking space from 18 feet by 9 feet to at least 16 feet 6 inches by 10 feet for the spaces along the eastern lot line, from 18 feet 9 feet for the northern aisle to 14 feet 8 inches by 11 feet 2 inches, and from 18 feet by 9 feet to 14 feet 10 inches by 10 feet 5 inches for the western building spaces, and from 18 feet by 9 feet to 15 feet 2 inches by 9 feet along the western property line. There's a follow variance to reduce the required number of spaces from 49 to 42, and finally to reduce the parking setback line from 10 feet to 0 feet. The final two variances are triggered by the City of Columbus Division of Traffic Management requesting a right-of-way dedication. The Division of Traffic Management states that right-of-way dedication of 50 feet from the center line of Greenlawn Avenue will be required. Hence, the parking spaces along the southern aisle will need to be angled in order to promote the one-way circulation of the aisle. So, given that the applicant adhered to the comments from traffic management, they lost all the parking spaces that were initially here and were tasked with adding variance to reduce the parking. They initially had code-required parking due to their crafty reduction in aisle and parking space size. But since the City of Traffic is requesting the right-of-way dedication, they are being asked to both reduce the parking setback line and to reduce the parking spaces that were here. Staff can recommend approval of these requests. The applicant has optimized the site by adding as much parking as possible, by reducing parking space size, aisle width, and maneuvering area, all of which have been reviewed and approved by the Division of Traffic Management. The applicant initially had not requested a parking variance, but due to the right-of-way dedication, they were forced to remove 8 parking spaces. The only condition we're requesting is a parking area, all parking areas are visible from Greenlawn Avenue to be landscaped, and for that landscape plan to be included on site screening. With that, we will turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, ma'am, is there something that you want to say to add to this application? Ms. Turnage?
I'm going to see if my coworker can speak.
Hi, this is Kevin Kindy from Triad Architects. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, state your name again for the record, please.
Yeah, hi, it's Kevin Kindy from Triad Architects.
Can you raise your right hand? The testimony you give tonight, you promise me the truth, nothing but the truth. Please say I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Kevin, I need you to spell your last name, please.
Yeah, it's Kindy.
Thank you.
And nothing else to add. Everything Mr. Free said sounds correct.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. I didn't hear a request for bike parking.
There is bike parking included on the site plan. It's at the very front, right behind the landscaping.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I didn't see anything in the Division of Traffic Management or parking around this is okay for them to reduce parking space sizes and maneuvering. I mean, I think that's a traffic parking expert issue. Brandon?
We provided our support.
Oh, okay. I just didn't see that in the report. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was in the summary, Madam Chair.
Oh, I didn't. Okay. I was looking at it, the written part, but I didn't see it. Okay. Okay. Anybody here from care to speak for or against this property? Please unmute and identify yourself. Okay, hearing none. Are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
All right, I just want to figure out if Eric is here or not real quick. I'm not him in the participant list. We've got to call in either 3, but they're muted. So
I just texted him to say something.
Caller 33 is unmuted.
Can you guys hear me?
There you
now we can.
Hello?
Now we can.
Okay, I don't know what that technical issue, I apologize. But yes, I'm here and have been listening, so.
Okay, great.
We will start with you, Mr. Welderly.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
Mr. Maleka.
Yes.
Mr. Demora.
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 99 East Cook Road. Is the applicant for 99 East Cook Road here?
Yes, I'm Catherine Cunningham, and I am an attorney at Kegler Brown Hill and River. I'm here on behalf of the diocese, and there are also two members of the diocese. I don't know that they'll speak, but here to answer any question, which would be Deacon Campbell and Tom Long.
Okay, if the three of you guys can take yourselves off of mute and raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Great. So if you do have something to say, you can state your name and then you can say it. Okay. I'll go to the city first to present the case, and then we'll hear from the applicant.
Okay, so this is case BZA 20-042, 99 East Cook Road, located at the southwest corner of Foster Street and East Cook Road. This is the area that's served by the Clintonville Area Commission. Clintonville Area Commission recommends approval of the request. The applicant is asking for two variances, the first of which is to reduce the required setback for a parking lot from 25 feet to 11 feet. And the other is to provide lighting for the parking lot. This is to legitimize a parking lot that serves Bishop Robertson High School. And it's the area that, Jamie's showing it right now, the area that used to be tennis courts. And the tennis courts, the high school converted the tennis courts into parking spaces, and they were written up by code enforcement for not having zoning clearance for that. So that's why they're here now. This is a result of code enforcement action. And so that's why they're here today. The city staff is recommending approval of this request, and we have no conditions. I want to point out that I have received today 2 emails from neighboring residents. Well, one was from a neighbor and expressed concerns about the parking lot having to do with the lights that are already existing, really, from, I believe, the football field and maybe whatever else is around there that is existing. But this person was in agreement with not providing the lighting because there was already enough there. This person wishes that the high school would have some sort of a good neighbor agreement because apparently there's just a little bit of disagreement there about how they've developed, and they feel as though they aren't treating the neighbors right. So I just wanted to point that out. And so having said that, we do recommend approval of this request.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything to add?
Just briefly, the variances that are requested, there was discussion of a good neighbor agreement with some of the neighbors, which doesn't really actually have anything to do with the parking lot. It really has to do with just more the existence of a school in their neighborhood. In terms of the parking lots, as I think as David said, the Bishop Watterson had just restriped the tennis courts to provide needed parking for the school. And when they got a notice of violation, they immediately got together and filed an application to bring parking compliance. They will actually have more green space and less pavement as a result of this project, and it'll line up with and align to the parking lot to the east that was already granted a variance so that traffic can flow in a consistent way. So it's been supported by the area commission and staff and planning, and we would appreciate an approval. And happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Does the board have any questions? Okay. Is there anybody here that would like to speak about this application? Please unmute yourself. Okay, hearing none. Are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Malek,
Yes.
Mr. Wadelli,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Looking at 6065 Channing Way Boulevard. Will the applicant please unmute and identify yourself, please?
Yes. This is Jean Cabral. I'm surprised you got that there that fast. I was listening.
So
Anyhow.
we have you sworn in already, so I will go ahead and hear from the city's report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Phil Benich. 6065 Channing Way Boulevard is located on the southeast corner of Channing Way Boulevard and Lake Club Drive, served by the Far East Area Commission. It's C4 commercial. The 1.8 acre site is partially developed with a nightclub and bar and associated 53 parking spaces. Most of the site, approximately 1 acre, is green space. Surrounding uses include apartments to the west, offices to the north, a bank to the east, and a motel and vacant commercial land to the south. A previous owner added a walled courtyard that took away parking spaces without zoning clearance. Jamie, do you have the PowerPoint? Pulling that up. Thanks. The applicant proposes to add parking spaces and trees and to legitimize existing conditions. The variances are to reduce the required number of interior parking lot trees from 6 to 1, and to reduce the number of parking spaces from 68 to 59 spaces. They have to do some shuffling of the existing arrangement to make that work. The C2P2 state that parking reductions should be evaluated based on their impact on surrounding areas, that parking lots should incorporate green technology, and that screening should be placed between parking lots and the right-of-way. With the addition of headlight screening and street trees along Channing Way Boulevard, the Division of Planning is in support. Traffic has no comments, and the Far East Area Commission recommends approval of this request. City departments recommend approval. The Planning Division has determined that the proposal is consistent with C2P2 criteria for parking reductions, and that the screening variance is mitigated by the addition of street trees along Channing Way Boulevard. We do ask that the applicant commit to the stamped site plan. Madam Chair.
Okay. Mrs. Cabral, do you have anything to add to this one?
No, that's pretty self-explanatory. We're adding quite a few new trees. They're just not going to be within the interior of the paved area. And then we're adding a couple thousand square foot of new asphalt to achieve 9 new spaces. So
Okay.
that we're making up for that. But my client bought this thinking everything's a-okay, and it's probably been like this for at least 15 years with this outside patio that was never approved. And so then the COVID hit and all this stuff happened. So he'd like to, he is open as a bar right now. And there's parking, by the way, along Lake Club Drive and Channing Way. There's a private drive there, and also to this Chase Bank, and it's not written down, but they allow people to park in the Chase parking lot at night.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Is there anybody here to speak on this application? Okay, if not, are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Mr. Welderly?
Yes.
Mr. Demora?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, case 4655 Rustic Bridge Road. Is the applicant here? Please unmute and identify yourself.
Yes, hi, this is Jan Vandenberg.
Hi, can you please raise your right hand? Do you promise that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, great. We will hear from the city and then we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is BZA case BZA 20-047, 4655 Rustic Bridge Road. It's located at the southwest corner of Nottingham Road and Rustic Bridge Road. It is in the area that's served by the Clintonville Area Commission, and they recommend approval of this request. The applicant is asking for one variance, and that is to reduce the required building setback line from 35 feet to 21.5 feet, which would be a 13.5 foot setback reduction along Nottingham Road. This is for the purpose of constructing a first floor master bedroom addition onto an existing single unit dwelling. And so already there is an existing enclosed porch that since this is in a platted setback area, it already encroaches into the platted setback. Exactly how that happened, we don't know, but that was probably something that occurred quite some time ago. I believe this property's been in existence or developed with this dwelling since before the zoning code, so it's quite possible that could have happened that way too. But the city staff has looked at the situation, and in normal circumstances, the setback would be 25 feet, and our assessment of the situation is that the encroachment is minimal, so we are recommending approval of this request with no conditions. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Vandenberg, do you have anything to add?
No, I think David's report explains it all. I will say that we did talk with all of the adjacent neighbors, and everybody is supportive of the idea.
Okay. We also see that you have the recommendation of the approval of the Clintonville Area Commission. Is there any questions for the applicant from the board? Do we have anyone here tonight that wants to speak about this application? Please unmute and identify yourself. Okay.
David.
I'm sorry.
David Eppard.
Okay, can you spell that for us?
Hold on one second. Gotta mute the computer.
I think he's here
Okay.
for the next one.
I'm sorry,
Was
what?
this not Palace Road?
No, Palace Road's next.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Okay. So if we have no more questions, we ready to call the roll?
Call the question.
Questions been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Wellesley,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yeah.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mora, Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Now 543 Follis Road. I heard the applicant. Can you please identify yourself, name, please?
David K. Eppard.
Gotcha, Mr. Eppert. Okay, can you raise your right hand? Do you promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, we will hear from the city first, and then we'll come back to you.
I believe the
Okay.
homeowner is also here if you want to swear her in now.
Oh, okay. Can you identify yourself, please?
Janice, you're on mute. You want to unmute yourself?
Hello, Mrs. Halterman? We can't hear you if you're talking.
You are unmuted now. Okay. I'll just go along, and if she has anything to add, we can
Yeah.
get it later. All right. So BZA 20-049. This is 543 Fallis Road, located on the south side of Fallis Road, approximately 520 feet west of Indianola Avenue. And this is within the Clintonville Area Commission, zoned R3. The site is developed with a single unit dwelling and a detached 2-car garage. The existing garage is located 1.5 feet from the southern property line. Surrounding uses are single unit dwellings. The applicant proposes to raise and rebuild a detached garage. The applicant requests variances to maintain both the side yard of 1.5 feet where 3 are required and the maneuvering area of 18 feet where 20 are required. Planning supports the request as the side yard variance would conform an existing condition. Planning has no comment on the variance for maneuvering as the Clintonville neighborhood plan does not address this matter. The Division of Traffic Management has no issues with the requested variances. The Clintonville Area Commission recommends approval of this request. City departments can recommend approval as the reduced side yard and maneuvering area are existing conditions that will be conformed by the variances, and we have the condition that the exhibits be stamped.
Okay. Mr. Eppert, are you in agreement that these are the final renditions, that they can be stamped for the record?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add?
I think covered everything just perfectly.
Okay. Do you have any questions for this applicant? Okay, is there anybody here that wants to speak about this application? Please unmute and identify yourself. Okay, no questions, no comments. Are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. DeMora,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Mr. Wellesley,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, I think this is our last case, correct?
Correct.
1565 to 1571 North 4th Street. Is the applicant online? Please identify yourself.
Mr. Sterick, are you online? I see your name there.
We can't hear you if you are talking. Oh.
I see his picture. I just can't hear him.
I see your picture. I see your thumbs up. Oh, he's calling. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Jamie.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start the presentation then.
Yep.
Okay, 1565 through 1571 North 4th Street is located at the southwest corner of North 4th Street and Chittenden Avenue. The site is within the University Area Commission in Zone C4 Commercial. It should be noted that the site is also within the University Impact District Review Board, as well as the University District Zoning Overlay. The site is built as an eating and drinking establishment with an accessory parking lot. Surrounding uses include commercial and multifamily residential. The applicant proposes to convert the accessory parking lot containing 5 parking spaces into an outdoor patio totaling 726 square feet. The new patio requires 3 additional parking spaces, and because they are displacing 5 parking spaces, the request is to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 8 to 0. It should be noted that the previous owner applied for and received a parking variance in 2007 to convert the existing parking lot. However, they never followed through with zoning clearance, and so the Board of Zoning Adjustment variance had expired. The University District Plan recommends regional mixed use for the area and states that parking needs must be balanced with the goal of intensifying development near campus, which is more walkable, and lessening intensity in the neighborhoods further from campus. The Division of Traffic Management states that any access easements in place for the business to the south that would access Chittenden would have to be removed, and the proposed expansion of the existing sidewalk during dining lease would need to be requested separately. So to clarify, we'll go back to the aerial. Division of Traffic Management was concerned if any buildings to the south had an easement to access Chittenden. The applicant apparently did the research himself and found that there were none. So there are no easements for any of these properties to access Chittenden. The University Area Commission recommends approval of this request. Staff is also recommending approval. Staff notes that the development is in a dense urban environment near campus. It's located along a transit corridor and it has access to nearby public structured parking. Variances would meet the plan's guide of preserving and enhancing the walkable nature of the area, as well as helping to preserve the building stock. Staff notes that this location is within the University Impact District. Planning defers to the University Impact District Board on design-related matters. So if there's any kind of fence or anything like that, that they will have to go to the IDRB, which I believe the applicant has already made plans to do so.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Can you state your name for the record?
Daniel Stark.
Raise your hand, and do you promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Jamie, I really don't have much to say after what he said. We did have the UIRDB meeting last Thursday. There was a few adjustments. They wanted me to have the metal fence go 10 feet on the west side of the lot, and they wanted me to put more flowers out on the fences, which I agreed upon.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I forgot to add, or I forgot to mention that there may be people from the neighborhood that wish to speak, and this is in reference to the supplemental letter that I sent you all this afternoon. So I just want to get that on the record.
Okay. Do we have any questions for this applicant? Okay, is there people here on the line that would like to speak about this application? Please unmute yourself and state your name.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
My name is David Shade. I'm an attorney.
Okay, can you raise your hand?
And my client is here also.
Are you going to speak as well?
Yes, maybe.
Okay, raise your hands and I swear you both in. Sir, I'll swear you in too. Do you promise that the
Okay.
testimony you give tonight will be the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
In looking at the application, we've got several levels of concern. My client, James A. Garrett, owns the property at 275 Chittenden, which is to the rear or to the west of the property. His property is used for multifamily residential at the moment. And the second story of the bar is used for residential. There was a mistake, I believe, on the address. It says 1565 to 1571. But 1565 and 67 are actually a property just to the south of the property. There's residences upstairs, but there's a carryout downstairs. So those really aren't part. And from what I saw in the application, I could not tell that the real estate is owned by 1571 North 4th LLC. The business is actually owned by Steric Investments LLC. And Oldfield North 4th Tavern isn't a registered trade name either. It's not a registered, there are no registered trade names under Oldfields. So we think in that sense, we could not actually see the application, but based upon what I'm seeing, the application appears to have been made in the wrong way. We think that what's going to happen with this property, and we understand and are sympathetic to COVID type situations, okay? But what he's asking for is a permanent variance, and this could be an extremely intense use of this property. You've got residential upstairs, you've got the entire first floor, you've got a patio on 4th Street, you've got a patio on the side of the building, and you've got a patio to the rear. And if this is granted, and no parking, we would point out to you that the dumpster for this property is presently located on my client's property, and his two tenants park their cars on my tenant's property. He's been consensual with that thus far, but if there's not a problem with parking, why are those things over there on his property? It is taking, when I look at the 7 components of that you consider in granting a variance, I don't see how it's
Madam Chair, I have to
possible in
interrupt
any
and let
way.
the applicant know that time is up.
Okay. Okay, sir, if you could wrap up this point for us.
Madam Chair, if you want to extend the time, I suggest maybe the opponent argue against the zoning variances rather than the naming and the application. So if you want to extend that.
Yes, sir, if you can make the point about the density, if you could complete that point, that thought.
Well, this property consists of 3,319 square feet of ground. They're talking about 726. The drawing is not very clear. It is the architect's drawing, and it's dated 2007, so it makes me question whether it's accurate. This where it says Savita Inc., that's the property at 1565. But getting back to the density issue.
So wait, this is the drawing. You're saying this is the drawing that's not clear about the patio?
No, this isn't the one that.
Oh.
It's the architect drawing that was submitted.
Do you have that one up, Jamie?
I have the application open. Give me 1 second.
Okay. I'm just trying to better understand your concern, sir. So I'm just trying to follow along with the drawing that you're referencing.
My client just got notice of this on the 22nd. He immediately contacted me, and we've been working on it ever since.
This was submitted with the application?
No, that's not the one I'm talking about.
After doing research, we found that the initial application did have a registered site plan, which is right here.
This is the register site plan?
Or, well, not registered, but it was provided by an architect.
Yeah,
The architect was
I have another one as well. The last
one
sheet, the last
the
sheet of the
one I-
packet you guys sent.
Oh, okay.
All right, let me check my folder.
It's one
I do
Jamie
have it
sent to me, so he has it.
if needed.
Hold on, I'm looking through too.
While he's looking for that,
Oh, I see it.
you know, the idea of ingress and egress isn't a matter that necessarily will show up in court records. If those rights exist, they probably exist under a right of prescription under eminent domain law. And we're not in any way prepared to talk about that, but I don't think that that thought can be excluded. So my concern is, and my client's concern is, that after you get through COVID, then he conceivably has the inside of the building full, the front patio full, the side patio full. He's got more employees because of all the business. He's got the rear patio full on game day or other important things. And you've got presumably some of these people, the tenants who live in the three places, at least part of them are students. They need time to study. They need some quiet. And we don't think that the conditions are conceivably met, but assuming for purposes of discussion that they are, there ought to be a whale of a bunch of restrictions put on it, like no live bands, no this, no that. There are residences nearby, and parking is at a premium. All the documents there were photos with the documents I submitted, and all of them show parking areas on the street to be nearly full.
So, sir, can I ask a question about the point you made about the dumpster and the residents of this property parking on your client's property? Why is that happening?
Well, it's been pretty much because my client's a nice guy, but the dumpster, my client owned this bar at one time.
Okay.
And the dumpster is over there. He's talked to Mr. Sterick and said that he's got to make arrangements to get that taken care of.
Okay.
And you know, he needs the parking spaces for his own use.
Okay.
So the two tenants from the upstairs are currently parking their cars on Mr. Garrett's property.
Do they know that that's somebody else's property?
Sure they do.
Okay.
And Mr. Garrett has been consensual with it. He's not trying to be difficult about this thing, but this just becomes really, really intense. And if you look at in the written materials I submitted, I went through the 7 things that a board considered and tried to address those. I don't see how you can possibly conclude to a reason or beyond by clear and convincing evidence that those 7 conditions are met. This is going to be potentially a very intense use.
I heard you mention eminent domain. This is Eric Wodeley, by the way. Can you explain to me what your position is?
I misspoke. I was talking about adverse possession. Okay.
So you think for at least a period of time that would require or condition adverse possession has been met?
The elements to acquire either an easement or ownership by adverse possession, the law school trick is the word ocean. It has to be open, continuous, exclusive, adverse, and notorious for 21 years for ownership.
Correct.
For an easement to exist, you know, if they've done it adversely for that period of time, there could potentially be some argument about it. That's all I'm suggesting. I don't have enough information to say that that's so, but I don't have enough information to say that it's not so either.
Okay, thank you for anybody else have any questions for this witness? Does anybody else want to speak on this application?
I want to know where the dumpster is now.
Yeah, that's what I want to know is where is the dumpster even on this rendering about the new patio? Wait, I'm sorry. This is a question for the applicant. Where can the applicant?
Am I allowed to speak, ma'am?
Yes, please do.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. The dumpster is on the alley of the Chittenden and 11th Alley. It is on Mr. Garrett's property due to the handshake agreement we've had for 8 years. That is where the dumpster always has been. His residents also use it, so does the carryout use it, and I paid for everything instead of having Mr. Garrett pay for it. As for the parking of my residents, they don't have cars. So if somebody is parking there, none of my residents in my building own a car.
Okay,
So he has also told me that we're allowed to use those 2 spots if any of the apartments do have cars, but that is not what is happening, ma'am.
So it sounds like your handshake agreement has just been unshook.
That sounds like it has been. You're right, ma'am.
So we need to understand where the dumpster is going to be located on your property in light of this new proposal for this patio.
I actually own the property on the other side of his property as well at 271 Chittenden. There is a carriage house in the rear of that with access to space to put the dumpster if need be.
So you're saying you would be walking across his property to get trash into the dumpster on the property on the other side?
No, ma'am, we would take it through down the Chittenden sidewalk, if you want to call it, or street for one parcel through the backyard of the property that I own and to the new dumpster. I would love to work something out with Mr. Garrett, but this is the first I've heard back from him about this situation.
We just heard about this on the 22nd. That's when the notice was received. And Mr. Sterrett didn't come and talk to Mr. Garrett before he submitted this.
So tell me,
ma'am, am I allowed to?
Yeah, so tell
am I allowed to rebut that?
So to the applicant, the question really is, where are the people going to park? Does Chittenden have street parking?
Chittenden has street parking, 4th has street parking, Summit has parking, 11th has parking, all without parking passes. We are a campus bar. When I say 99% of our clientele walk, I hope they don't drive. I don't think there should be driving allowed to a bar, so we don't need it.
And if people do drive, you're saying that there's street parking enough for the establishment?
Yes, ma'am. If you would go down Chittenden right now, there are, I'm looking at my cameras, it looks like there's probably 15 spots within 50 feet.
And what do you say about the noise and lights? I mean, we do generally, question those types of things when we have patios in a residential area.
I concede I will not have any bands or live music on the patio forever. And we have had speakers on the side patio, which is on Chittenden, and the front patio on 4th for at least 10 years. And we've had 0 complaints for those speakers. If I can bring up, there has been noise complaints in some of the houses in the area, but we have yet to have one since I've owned the bar since 2012.
And what about lighting?
If we do any lighting, it would be a rope lighting to kind of make the atmosphere, I would call it more romantic, but more, just a little bit brighter, but not bright. We're not putting in spotlights. We're not doing any dancing lights. It's going to be a very relaxed patio that people can hang out and have a good time on.
Jamie,
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify what the applicant said. I think it's poignant to note that he mentioned that there are more noise complaints for the residential properties than the commercial properties in this corridor. It's a good point.
Yeah, I hear that.
And in the same vein, I will say that his residents have had the police there for noise complaints and firework complaints 3 or 4 times in the past month.
Jamie, is there a way for us to write in, no street light, no live music? Is that something that we usually can do in these things and have it enforced?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's something we can definitely put on the board order, but as far as enforcement, if there's a live band at 11 o'clock, and I don't know if code enforcement will react that quickly, but it's definitely something we can ask the applicant as a good neighbor to agree to.
Okay.
Easily, and the UIRDB has already requested that as well, and I have agreed with them on that matter as well.
Okay. Other board members, any thoughts?
I'll call the question.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure we don't have anybody else that wants to say anything. Okay, question's been called. Please call the roll. Sorry, please call the roll with the conditions that no street lights, no live band outside.
Okay. And who called the question?
That was Mr. Jones.
Okay. Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Mr. Welderly?
Yes.
Mr. Demora?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, fairness is granted. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Okay, so this concludes the meeting, correct, Jamie?
That is correct. Thank you, board members and Chair Palmer.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Hey, Jamie and Michael, will you stay on for just a second longer?
Okay. Everyone else, have a great night.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
So,
So Jamie, I didn't want you to shut us off because I just wanted to
Hold
say.
on a minute, Dave. Hold on, Dave. I'm waiting for people to log off there.
and I want to stay on because I have a question for you guys too.
Oh, okay.
I'll wait.
Mr. Shade, do you need anything?
I would like to ask for separate findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Well, the vote's already been called and the meeting's over. We're just doing some post-meeting business now.
Okay.
Do you want to reach out to Mr. Free through email? Hello?
Okay, it looks like 4 of us now. Eleanor, did you have a question?
So I heard Mayor Ginther's press conference the other day about the question was asked about extending patio space, right, because of COVID.
Yep.
And his answer was the city was not going to expedite those requests, but that they would be coming through the normal process. And what I assumed was that would be our process.
You're exactly right, yes.
So I wanted to have a conversation about what's our diligence around that, right? Because I expect in the next month or two, we're going to be seeing more requests. And I just wanted to get out in front of it and, find out what you guys' thoughts are. What should we be thinking about with these so that we have some kind of consistency? Do we need to kind of pull places that we've done it in the past so that we're consistent?
That's a great question and good notion. We have discussed that internally. And as Mayor Ginther said, that it would be business as usual with no expedited processes. So far, this is the first case that has claimed COVID as a hardship. There will be one next month, which is already gone through university, and they are claiming COVID as a hardship. The thing we as staff are trying to explain is that these are permanent. The opponent for this last case said he was fine with the expansion until COVID. Well, he was fine with the expansion, but even after COVID subsides, that he still wants that maximum occupancy to be intact. Well, that's a health department issue, so it's not really ours. We deal strictly with parking. Occupancy is totally different than what we do. From what I've been told or what we've discussed a little bit higher up is that we evaluate these just like any other case because there are unfortunately no temporary solutions. We are allowing people to come in and apply for a temporary occupancy permit for a weekend, but most of these applicants want this for the summer, for the fall, for football. If you have any thoughts on how it would be easier to communicate that information to you and the board members, I'd be happy to take notes and talk to Brandon and the parking services people. But as far as I'm concerned, I think they're going to be evaluating just like it was a normal year.
Well, I think you hit on one of the things that was my questions, which is there any way to time block it and say, 6 months or for the end of 2020 or something, but I guess there's not.
For special permits, we can always time limit them, but for parking variances, we really can't because the variance goes with the land.
But what were you saying about occupancy? So are you saying that if an establishment has a 50-person occupancy, even if they get a patio, they can't exceed the 50 occupancy?
Well, right now with COVID, the governor is limiting occupancy. So that's all I was saying, and that's what the opponent attorney was saying is whatever the governor is limiting it right now should be permanent, which that's not in our purview because that's a health department issue. So I was just anecdotally mentioning that to you.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know what would be helpful for us in this space. Probably, and I don't want to create too much work, but if you could help us by identifying another area, another property close by or in the area that we have granted or that we haven't. And give us that kind of background information so we have it, just so that we can have some consistency. Because I'm sure you guys do that too when you're trying to decide if you're going to approve it or not.
Exactly right. Well, our new kind of challenge from up above is we're more the coordinators rather than giving our personal opinions on the zoning report. We are taking in what planning says, taking in what transportation says, or healthy places as far as bike lanes. So we are basically punting to Division of Traffic Management for parking, which is why I leaned so heavily on that earlier for the earlier case of Bhakti. Our thought is they're the experts, and if they're okay with it, if they don't think there's congestion or back up in the streets, then that's what our stance is going to be. So you can hang your hat on that if you want.
Which is new. I haven't heard you guys really defer to them like that before.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been our new charge, but we don't want to look like we're just ceding all authority. Because I mean, we welcome you to ask us for not our personal opinions, but a zoning opinion. For example, the large garage on Indian Mound, it was more than appropriate for you to say, well, have there been any others like that? Let's take a look at the zoning map. When I brought up the zoning map, that was like a 2-acre property compared to this, tenth of an acre. So, even though planning was fully supportive of it, they don't really look at the big picture. So we can kind of guide you if that's what you'd like to say.
Yeah,
planning's okay with materials.
Yeah, I think I would like that for these patio things because I definitely see that this is going to be. I mean, everybody, whoever's got space in Short North, German Village, downtown I think it's going to be an issue.
Well, if there's one saving grace for you, it's that we've been pretty easy going on patios because they are seasonal. Typically from late March to late September, early October. If they do enclose those patios, that becomes a permanent structure, and then they would need a further variance. Whether they get caught doing it is another question, but ultimately we lessen the parking requirement because it's seasonal, and we're a little more lenient. I think transportation is too on our approvals because of the type of use it is.
So maybe then we need to come up with a set of conditions that we always add, kind of similar to how we do with garages with the 2 stories. You know, we
Sure,
want to
okay.
condition it that it's not habitable. So I don't know, think about what those conditions would be. Is it just music and lighting, or is there something else we need to say about it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, depending on where it is. For example, university, I don't think we're going to have any issues from actual neighbors. This was a little bit of a weird one because the neighbor, you know, I kind of mentioned to you, it might be trying to bully this new applicant into a money grab. I don't know. I'm speculating.
Right.
We'll treat that totally differently than we would in, say, Clintonville or Grandview, where parking may spill into someone's residential neighborhood. And while they can't claim the parking in front of their house, you know, you don't want a bunch of drunk people coming walking in front of your front yard at 2 in the morning or, you know, whatever. And so we're more sensitive to the neighborhoods than we are campus or Short North, which is no longer in our purview. But something on High Street in German Village, we'll treat that totally different than we would 3rd Street in German Village and so on, you know.
Wait, why do you say Short North is no longer in your purview?
Because the Short North Special Parking District.
Right.
Yeah, they have no more parking regulations, or they can't get a BZA variance. They have to pay $20,000 per parking space into
So if they want to expand, if they want to eliminate their parking to use it for a patio, they got to pay.
That's right. They have to pay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's all. I was going to shoot you an email, but then when you were staying on the line, I was like, I might as well just have the conversation.
I'm glad you did. You've given us quite a bit to think about. There's actually going to be a manager meeting tomorrow. Well, I'll bring it up with commercial zoning clearance and the chief zoning official and get their thoughts. And then I can send you kind of a preview of what I think you might want. And you can tweak it or tell me what you do or don't like about it. And
I just want us to be consistent. And I get this is a hard time for people, but you're right. If it's permanent, we got to be mindful of what are we doing to the
right. Yeah.
Even though it's COVID, you know, they can take advantage of this forever.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, my kind of thought is it's a tongue-in-cheek argument that, okay, well, you'd still be asking for it regardless.
Right.
Where is it? Like, so the next one coming in next month, it's High Street, High and Lane Avenue, so it's campus. But again, if this was, you know, a residential neighborhood that, you know, I don't want to paint the waters for what might be coming, but we will weigh them differently and look at the use. So.
Okay. Good to know.
All right.
Okay, I'm getting off.
All right. Thanks, Laura. Have a good month.
You too. Bye.
Take care.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, the only thing I was interested in was just making sure that you and I can coordinate here a little bit, because I missed about 3 or 4 of the cases, and so when you have the board orders, you know, together, if you've been keeping track of that, if you could let me know so that I can do the results agenda for Jamie and get it so that he has what he needs.
It's already done. So the July BZA board order document should be up to date.
Okay, great. I'll take a look tomorrow.
Michael, do you add conditions to them as well, or just the vote and who voted?
I added conditions today the best I could. So I think I got everything.
Dave, if you want to send out that email that says, hey, Michael's got these ready, or Michael's got the board orders ready, which I guess kind of takes away from you, but if you want to send out the email saying they're ready, check your conditions or whatever, that'll remind staff that they're not 100%, check them.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I agree with that. Yep.
Good.
Sure. Okay.
All right, guys, good meeting.
Well,
we'll talk later this week.
I hope we get rid of our technical difficulties around here. I'm telling you.
Right.
Real frustrating.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
All right. Take care. Yep.